Christians often debate about whether certain prophecies have already been fulfilled. In this discussion, you often will hear the date 70 AD come up. I think there's a simple answer to this debate, and that is the fact that prophecy can have more than one fulfillment. The question is, has the final fulfillment happened yet? And I would argue, no. Whether we're talking about Matthew 24 or the book of Daniel or the book of Revelation, I would say that there are still final fulfillments left in all of those books. So when people tell me the book of Revelation is fulfilled or Matthew 24 is fulfilled, I simply ask, did Jesus return? Did the resurrection of the dead happen? Has the age ended? And to me, the answer is no. I want to show you a couple of biblical passages that explain this a little bit better. Let's start with Matthew 24 and the topic of the Abomination of Desolation. Many people say that this already happened in 70 AD. But if you look at the rest of the context, I don't think that it did. At least not the final fulfillment. So Jesus mentions when we see the Abomination of Desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, all the people in Judea need to flee to the mountains. He then says in verse 21 that there will be a great distress unequaled from the beginning of the world until now and never to be equaled again. And he says, if those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. In my opinion, none of those things happened in 70 AD. But more importantly, let's take a look at the book of Daniel because that's what Jesus says to do. Let's look at Daniel chapter 12. It looks like Jesus is actually quoting this passage because Daniel 12 says, there will be a time of distress such as has not happened from the beginning of nations until then, but at that time your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book will be delivered. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. Then the angel asks, how long will it be before these things are fulfilled? And then he says it will be for a time, times, and half a time. When the power of the holy people has been finally broken, all these things will be completed. So that's our 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation. And then Daniel still didn't understand, and the angel basically says the words are rolled up and sealed until the time of the end. And jump down to verse 11, it says, from that time that the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is the one who waits for and reaches the end of the 1,335 days. So to me, contextually, all of these things point to the end time Great Tribulation. And of course, when you go back to Matthew 24, toward the end, the return of Jesus Christ and the gathering of the elect called the rapture is described. So all of these things, including the Abomination of Desolation, take place within the end times context. So even if some things happened before that look like the final fulfillment of the Abomination of Desolation, the fact that Jesus hasn't returned and the dead haven't been resurrected shows me that there's still a final fulfillment.